It's another day in the Emerald City. The grass is always greener and the law of the land is code. Today we're speaking with Elizabeth Kukka, who's my dear friend and colleague.
Hi,
Elizabeth,
Dean.
hi. Program
Fun to be
director.
here.
Crushing it. So what's one of the things that I've always been asked is, how is blockchain influence some of the kind of mechanics of running an accelerator? Like, how are the startups different?
I guess the startups are different at ETC Labs or at any kind of blockchain accelerator, I assume, than a traditional accelerator in that for us, the founders need to be technically savvy. So they need to be engineers and they need to be blockchain engineers. And at another startup, you might have two founders who don't have that background and who can easily kind of just port onto or kind of buy out of the box a solution that they can kind of build on top of. So I think that's one way that we're definitely different. Another way that a blockchain accelerator is different is that you're working with risk takers and what I believe are visionaries and who think that blockchain is really a part of the future and are willing to kind of place a bet there. So it's a unique personality. Yeah.
It's a different personality, right? Because like you look at like I think about like Ethernode or Slips or Cryzent, like definitely like there's smaller teams, and you find that they have to be kind of like Renaissance men, right? Like, or
I think so, or women, yes.
Women, yeah. I just realized this is the first time we've had a woman on the show, so we got to change that. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of gender difference in blockchain. So what component do you think is the most critical as far as like, is it funding or is it mentorship that really the blockchain startups need more than some of the traditional ones you've worked with?
I think it's both. I think most people, funding is first and foremost usually, because without funding, you have to work a 9 to 5 or take on gigs on the side, which detracts from working on your project or your startup company, however you want to position it at the stage that you're at. So without funding, you can't keep moving forward. So I think that's usually priority number one. Number two, I think a lot of people don't feel comfortable asking for help, or they want to appear as though they know everything and they don't want to seem junior or whatever it is, especially to someone that's also an investor. And so they don't want to say that they could use support with business model canvas or with their go-to-market or with, whatever it may be, and that they want to figure it out themselves. So I think trying to create an environment where everyone's learning together and where they can ask questions and kind of lean off of each other and use each other's experience to move forward is what we're trying to achieve at the accelerator. So I think people come for both. I think they come for funding first and foremost, and then two, hopefully get something out of like the workshops and mentorship as well, and the introductions. So we're making a lot of introductions for folks. That's all that we can do. We can't close a deal and we can't force someone to write a check for them. They have to do that on their own, but we're making a bunch of introductions for folks too.
Yeah, the workshops are always super interesting. There was, what was the workshop yesterday? That was with Chris?
Chris Sabarino? That was today. That was just,
that was today.
Yeah, that was 5 hours ago. Yep.
How'd it go?
Yeah, it went really well. Chris is a fantastic instructor. So if you're listening to this or watching this right now, check out Chris Sabarino. He has a book that's out right now in beta, so it's not finished, but he's a fantastic instructor. So he covered hashing, digital signatures, Merkle tree. Yeah, he's great. He's very good.
What are some of the lessons you've learned from the first cohort that you would kind of change in cohort 2?
I'm still getting feedback and trying to get folks to be as honest and direct and critical as possible. Otherwise, we can't get better. I think having dedicated time, I think being organized, no matter how much folks like enjoy the ambiguity and want flexibility and like this kind of freedom to move, I think people also appreciate organization, whether or not they realize it or not. I think having schedules and kind of routine helps everybody kind of just coordinate their own lives and know that, ETC Labs is there for us on these days at these times. It's just easy. And so I think we're trying to get better at that, at offering kind of like a consistent programming. I think that'll be helpful. Something I'd like to try, or I think we should talk about it, Dean, now that we're on the line together, is for our next demo day, and we'll see how this one goes. This is our first one, everybody. Um, should we even have investors in the room? Maybe it should just be potential sales partners. Maybe we should just spend a lot of our time is spent finding investors and partners for our teams throughout that 3 months. So like they're going to the workshops in their building and we're out finding resource for them. Maybe we should just be trying to find those customers and fill the room with the customers. Or doing two separate events.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense because, I mean, a lot of the education also on the investor side, it takes so much more time than a quick pitch, right?
I think so. And then for a lot of the teams, like investment isn't necessarily the right thing to do. It's extending your runway. But ideally, I mean, I think any team ideally would just have customers and not have to depend on that outside organization to keep them moving forward.
Yeah, no, I think that would be awesome. And maybe we can even like squeeze something in like that for these.
Don't you dare.
So, demo day is right around the corner. What do you want to share about demo day?
Yeah, it's a closed event, so it's small. It's only for 60 guests. That includes startups and their invites. I think we have around 1/3 of invites are for investors who have already kind of claimed their spot, so to speak. And then we're inviting our workshop hosts and mentors as well to join. I think what's exciting and what we're trying to do to make it a little bit different is to have time and space for our teams to demo what they're working on. So instead of just coming up, doing the pitch, sitting down, and networking, we're trying to make time and space for teams to be able to show off their tech as well. So that's exciting. I think we're going to
Yeah,
have like a live AR avatar demo and like some little cool creatures walking around the room, and hopefully Button is going to have a cash box ready for us to use so that folks in the room can use kind of like a burner wallet just to test it out. Yeah, Slips will probably have some gaming going on, having folks kind of fake competing. So I think a lot of teams are going to come up with some interesting ways to demo what they're working on.
I mean, this is more like a festival, you know? It's like a crypto festival of all the different things you can do. I like it.
In my
I
head, I'm sure when we get there, we'll see how pumped and jazzed up we can get everybody. Yeah.
no the slips thing. Like I keep on wanting to play Tetris because I'm good at Tetris. That's the one I
Okay.
play. So
All right.
I want to do
Let's
like a
play.
slip stream
Do
with it.
it.
So that would be cool. Okay, so we've got demo day down. Now we're getting ready for cohort 2. How you know, this is the first time I've been working at Accelerator. How many applications do you have to look at?
Yeah, for cohort one, we didn't it wasn't 200 applications, but we looked at around 200 startups. And the reason why I differentiate that is because there's a lot of teams that I talk to through email or introduction or whatever it is, and they didn't go through like that formal application process, even though they did everything else the same beyond that application. We're definitely moving everyone to like, yes, you need to go fill out that application just from a tracking perspective because this helps us kind of stay organized and not give us extra work. So for the next cohort, we're actually doing a lot of referrals and outreach and kind of talking to teams directly. So that's going to conferences and meetups. Going to ETH Denver, for example, was useful. Going to other blockchain specific events to meet with teams. So it's more that way. And the reason why is because there are different platforms, one that we use for startups to kind of find out about accelerators, incubators, investors. And so you tend to get like a broader pool of people who aren't as interested in ETC and Ethereum Classic, or who are just looking for funding from anybody and everybody. And so they're kind of mass spamming all of these orgs with their application. And so because of that, I mean, I still look through every single team that applies through that process. But for us, it's a lot of referrals and going out and reaching out to teams directly. So how many teams we're looking at for this cohort? Right now we're close. Okay, I guess we're not looking for quantity, we're looking for quality. So the last one I was looking for just like as many teams as I could look through, and for this one it's so specific. So probably 100 max.
Okay. And one of the things we wanted to share is that we're going to give our audience a chance to kind of influence some of our decision making. Yeah, so we're going to choose, what is it, two or four to ask the crowd.
Yeah, we want the crowd to
See,
vote. We want the crowd to kind of tell us what they think is great or who they think is
I'm
great.
I'm excited for that. It's the first time I've been able to influence an accelerator's decisions.
Okay, I've never done it in this way, so this is exciting.
Have has anybody ever applied with like, I'm making the new Facebook for blockchain and that's it? Just like a sentence.
Yes. Yes.
I feel like there might be some content we can find from that, but at the same time, it would be kind of rude to share some of these outlandish ideas. At the same time, it's the outlandish ideas, I guess, that sometimes work the best.
Yeah, that's true, definitely. I think for the stage that we're at, our focus for the next cohort is really on blockchain infrastructure teams or backend infrastructure teams. And so instead of having like the next lift for blockchain or next lift for ride sharing, instead we're really looking at like the mechanics of it. And so teams that are focused on scalability, interoperability, protocol level solutions, dev tooling, privacy. So getting the core strong and the dev tooling strong so teams are ready and wanting to build with Ethereum Classic, or at least integrate with Ethereum Classic. They don't have to build specifically on ETC, but at least integrate.
Yeah, that's a
Most
good
guys,
distinction too. A
yeah,
lot of
but
people,
go ahead.
yeah, no, a lot of people ask me, well, does it have to be on Ethereum Classic? It's like, it doesn't have to be on Ethereum Classic. At the same time, what are the arguments? And then it's funny that that becomes like a conversion moment. Um,
Well, what I
yeah,
was gonna, yeah, what I was gonna add to what we were just chatting about is I just met with a team earlier today, for example, who's built out some like validation technology, for example, it's an HR solution, right? So that's interesting because they've built out something, an open source. An open source solution, it's on Git. There's tech that you can check out and use, and that they're sharing it. Like that's interesting. And then they have a platform built on top of it. Like that's interesting. That's not something that we see as common, and their user base is still growing, and it's still pretty like they're still getting they still need a lot of traction. But that I just want to say that it's not just the back end side. I mean, you can do both, but you don't have to have both to work with us just yet.
and what does that comprise? What are we giving the startups? Is it the office? Like, is it still office space in San Francisco?
Yep. So office space in San Francisco, and we're still asking teams to relocate to the SFA area for the duration of the program. The reason why is really because teams, we think, get the most out of the program when they're in person, able to work together and collaborate with the other teams that are there. And it's also, top of mind when I see you every day to make that introduction or to kind of check in and see how you're doing. Not only that, but in San Francisco, we have blockchain events happening every day of the week, multiple events usually competing with each other on the same night of the week. So I think it's a great place to spend a few months of your time to network with the blockchain community, with potential customers, users, investors, whoever it is.
Yeah, until I experienced it, I didn't realize how much you're leaving on the table by not being present in NSF at the accelerator. Because just outside of just the workshops and working with each other, the brain power in SF is insane. The conversations, the level that you find, going to Crypto Mondays, which you spoke at this week, like some of these events, you're not going to find that same quality anywhere else.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to find the same quantity and quality. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's quality folks everywhere, but yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of people focused on it. I mean, and the research organizations that are out here too. I mean, Stanford being one of them that does a lot in the space.
Yeah,
Just
that
down
was
the
cool.
street. Yep, it's
I
just down
know
the
we've been
street.
to
Yeah.
Stanford twice now. Once
Yeah.
For the blockchain conference where we got to see Vitalik, and then when we got to speak at the
Oh yeah.
yeah, which class was that? Um,
It was
you know this.
it was a weekly it's a blockchain series for like working professionals and who are like engineers or in like the IT space. So kind of looking to dive into blockchain. So I think there's a 5-week series.
Yeah, that was definitely fun. So right now, cohort 2, we're taking applications, and that is an event,
etclabs.org.
etclabs.org. We're going to put all the links below. And also, we're going to have an AMA next week.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You tell them.
Yeah, so next week we're going to do what we did for the dev team. We're going to do something similar now for the accelerator. You're going to get about half an hour, I think. That's how much we can pry away Elizabeth from her super hectic schedule. And people will be able to ask questions about the accelerator, about the projects, about the next cohort, everything to do with the ETC Labs investment arm. And yeah, I think we covered a lot on this.
Awesome.
Is there anything else you wanted to kind of share before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. This is pretty good. Yeah, next week, Tuesday. See you there, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Apply at etclabs.org, and I would say send me an email if you have questions, but do it at the AMA so that way I don't have to respond to 5,000 people. Just do it all at once. So please.
That's the beauty of the AMA. Yes, that's why we're doing it. Getting organized.
Yeah, but feel free to email me or reach out at any time, folks. Yeah. Twitter, email, venture_this at Twitter, and Elizabeth.k at etclabs.org. No, at .org. Yes. I almost said .com. Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Well,
or just reach Dean. Reach out to Dean. Dean will take care of everything.
well, yeah. We're both around on all the channels. Papa Ankit is somewhere around too. You can always reach out to Papa Ankit. I think we need to interview the cameraman one time.
Oh, that would be the best.
And next week we're gonna have Slips on, and also keep your eye out for the tweets. We're gonna have the crowd favorite tweets coming up later this week, and yeah, take care. Have a good one.